Hey folks, it's Ryan here from Bridge City Boardgamers, and I've got a special unboxing video for you today. Not really unboxing a board game, but I do have the two new hero packs from one of my favorite games, Marvel Champions. So I got Ant-Man and Wasp. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at what's going on inside. These have been two highly anticipated character packs because they're introducing a couple new things into the Marvel Champions gameplay. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'll push this one off to the side here right now. Let's take a look at Ant-Man. He was the first one to come out. Open it up. So of course we got the sheet with the Ant-Man art on the back, and of course got the hero pack, and of course we're going to be taking a look at the foldable cards, which is one of the new things that we're going to be introducing here in this game. So let's take a look at Ant-Man and see what they're going to revolve around. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to get those open a little bit here. For me, it's a little seems to be a little stuck for me here. Ugh. We struggle with this off camera. There we go. Okay. So there is the man of the hour, Ant-Man. Of course, Scott Lang is his alter ego. Ant-Man, Avenger Tiny. Response: after you change to this form, remove one threat from a scheme. Sounds very handy. But let's take a look at what we're actually here for to see is the three-sided card Ant-Man Giant. Giant Nuisance. Response: after you change to this form, deal 1 damage to an enemy. So as he's changing forms, he's dealing with the threat, and he's dealing damage. That's pretty cool. Scott Lang in Ant-Man Tiny, Ant-Man Large. So just to kind of give you a comparison of the giant to standard card size. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's see some of the cards that were built against. So we've got a ally Wasp. Of course, most useful for if you're not also playing with the Wasp pack. Hero response: after Wasp enters play, deal 2 damage to an enemy if you are in giant hero form, or remove 2 threat. So depending on your form, you're going to be dealing with threat, or dealing damage. Giant Stomp: play only if you're in giant form, deal 1 damage to each minion, deal 8 damage to an enemy. Play only if you are in giant hero form. Oh, so you got 2 copies of Giant Stomp. Hive Mind: play only if you're in tiny form. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. Remove 1 additional threat from that scheme for each army of ants support you control. Resize: hero action change to your other hero form. Draw 1 card. Oh, so you can, at a 0 cost, you can be flipping multiple times. That's kind of nice. It looks like there's 2 copies of that. Pim Particles: hero response. It's a resource card. After you spend this card, heal 2 damage from your hero if you are in giant hero form, or draw 1 card if you are in tiny form. 2 copies of that. Hero action: army of ants. If you are in tiny hero form, exhaust army of ants, deal 1 damage to an enemy. And of course we saw that there was some combo with Hive Mind, where it says remove 1 additional threat from a scheme for each army of ants you control. And looks like there's 3 copies of that. Upgrade: Ant-Man's Helmet. After you change to giant form, heal 2 damage. After you change to tiny form, draw 1 card. Giant Strength, hero response. After you change to giant form, you get +1 attack until the end of the turn. There's 2 copies of that. Risk Gauntlets. Hero action. If you are in giant hero form, exhaust Risk Gauntlets and spend 2 strength resources. You get to stun an enemy. If you're in tiny hero form, exhaust Risk Gauntlets and spend 2 lightning resources to confuse the enemy. And then there are some leadership aspect cards. We got Ally Ant-Man Hank Pym, so not Scott Lang. We got Giant Man, Ronan, Stinger. We got a Call for Aid. Actually, we got 3 copies of Call for Aid. Discards from the top of your deck until you discard an Avenger ally, then add that ally to your hand. Moxie. 3 copies. Power Gloves. Attached to an Avenger ally, max 1 per ally. 3 copies. Attached to an ally, max 1 per ally. We got Reinforced Suit. Attached ally gets 2 extra hit points. Actually, it's probably go really good in my Doctor Strange leadership deck that I just put together. And then we got our basic cards. We got some First Aid. We got Swarmtastics, Team Up, Ant-Man and Wasp, mask 1 per deck. Change to your other hero form, ready your hero. Now, Team Up means that you have to have Ant-Man and Wasp in play at the same time. And of course, we got Energy, Genius, and Strength staples. Team Building Exercise. Hero action, exhaust team building exercise. Play a card from your hand that shares a trait with your hero, reducing its resource cost by 1. 3 copies. Okay, we got the obligation card for Scott Lang. Care for Cassie. Exhaust Scott Lang, remove care. Or choose and discard 1 card from your hand. You cannot change form until your next turn ends. Discard this obligation. Okay. Tech Theft Side Scheme. Treat the printed text box of each tech player card as if it were blank. Of course, we got Yellow Jacket. Is the Nemesis minion. While you are in giant hero form, Yellow Jacket gains the giant trait and retaliate 1. While you're in tiny hero form, Yellow Jacket gains the tiny trait and gets +1 attack. And then, of course, we've got the Nemesis cards here. We got Size Increase, 2 copies. Yellow Jacket's Plan. And those are the cards that make up the Ant-Man deck and Nemesis set. And there's the deck list. So what we also got here, we also got some extra aggression cards. Moment of Triumph. After you attack and defeat an enemy, heal 1 damage from your hero for each point of excess damage dealt to that enemy by the attack. 3 copies. Lay Down the Law. After you change form, remove 3 threat from a scheme. 4 threat instead if you paid this using a genius resource. 3 copies. Muster Courage. Play only if your identity has the Avenger trait. Hero action. Give up to X friendly characters a tough. They'll give up to X friendly characters a tough status card to a maximum of 3 characters, where X is equal to the villain's stage number. Assess the situation. Action. You get +1 hand size until the end of the phase. So there's the Ant-Man deck. Okay, let's take a look at, kind of put this all together here. Put that one aside. Let's take a look at Wasp. Open it up here. And again, just like you would expect, you got the fold out. the giant wasp artwork. That in there. Okay, watch me struggle to open up another pack of cards. There we go. Okay, so there is Woman of the Hour, Wasp. Small but mighty. Response: after Wasp or an event you play defeats a minion or side scheme, deal 1 damage to the villain. Of course, we got Nadia. GIRL. Action: shuffle up to 2 cards with a printed genius resource from your discard pile into your deck. Limit once per round. And then, of course, she is also going to flip into Wasp Giant. Okay, we got thwart, attack, defense. We got some stars. Threat you remove using your basic thwart power can be divided among schemes. And damage you deal using your basic attack power can be divided amongst enemies. That's pretty interesting, pretty good. Put her right about there. Oh yeah, let's take a look at what we got here. So then, much like Ant-Man had Wasp as an ally, Wasp has Ant-Man as an ally. When you're in giant hero form, Ant-Man gains the giant trait and gets +1 attack. When you're in tiny form, Ant-Man gets tiny and gets +1 thwart. Okay. Giant help. Remove 3 threat from a scheme. Remove a total of 4 threat. Divide among schemes as you choose instead if you are in giant form. Looks like there's 2 copies. Pinpoint strike. Hero action deals 7 damage to an enemy. If you are in tiny hero form, this attack deals 1 additional damage to that enemy and gains overkill. Looks like there's 3 copies of that. Rapid growth. Hero interrupt when you use one of your hero's basic powers, thwart, attack, or defense. Change to your giant hero form and get +2 to that power for this use. 2 copies. Wasp Sting. If you are in giant hero form, deal a total of 4 damage divided amongst enemies as you choose. If you are in tiny hero form, deal 5 damage to an enemy. And looks like we got 2 copies of that. And then we got Pim particles, just like what we saw in Ant-Man's desk. While you are in giant form, so red room training. While you're in giant hero form, you gain retaliate 1. While you are in tiny hero form, your basic attacks gain piercing. Really neat. There's one of those. Biosynthetic wings. Wasp gains the aerial trait. Interrupt when you would take any amount of damage. If you are in tiny hero form, exhaust biosynthetic wings. Prevent 1 of that damage. Wasp's helmet. While you are in giant hero form, get +1 thwart. While you're in tiny hero form, you gain +1 attack. Thor, Jane Foster. This is a fantastic card. Response: after you play Thor from your hand, deal 2 damage to the villain, 3 damage instead if you played for this card using a physical resource. Wasp, Janet Van Dyke. Wasp gets +1 hit point for each Pim counter on her. Interrupt when Wasp enters play. Place 1 Pim counter on her to a maximum of 3 for each lightning resource you overpaid for Wasp's cost. Into the fray. Deal 6 damage to a minion. For each point of excess damage dealt by this attack, remove 1 threat from the main scheme. 3 copies. Surprise attack. After you change form, deal 3 damage to an enemy. 4 damage if you paid with a physical resource. 3 copies. Power of aggression. Needs no introduction. Boot camp. Play under any player's control, max 1 player. Each ally you control gains +1 attack. There are 3 copies. And Lie in Wait, max 1 per player. Hero response, after a minion engages you, discard Lie in Wait, deal 3 damage to that minion. 3 copies. Ironheart, ally, response, after you play Ironheart from your hand, draw 1 card. Spider-Man, Miles Morales. This is a really great card. Response, after you play Spider-Man from your hand, choose Thwart or Attack. Spider-Man gets +2 to the chosen power until the end of the phase. Then we got Swarm Tactics with the team up. And then we got our basics. The power in all of us, max 2 per deck. Double number of resources if you're playing for gray. Oh, nice. Quinn Carrier, play only if your identity has the Avenger trait. Exhaust Quinn Carrier, generate a wild resource. And Red Dreams is her obligation. Discard each card with a printed Genius resource from your hand and take 1 damage. Discard this obligation. Mother's Orders. As an additional cost for each hero to make a basic attack, that hero must spend 1 of any resource. Nasty side scheme. With the Beetle. Guard. Force interrupt when Beetle is defeated. Choose either spend a physical resource or shuffle Beetle back into the encounter deck. So be careful. Beetle's armor. When revealed, this card gains Surge. Beetlemania. Beetle attacks you with +1 attack. If no attack was made this way, gain Surge. 2 of those. And that's everything in the basic, and that's everything in the Wasp basic deck. And so the new cards coming in, we got Running Interference. Play only if your identity has the Avenger trait. Hero action, remove 2 threat from the main scheme. Remove X additional threat from the main scheme up to 3, where X is equal to the villain's stage number. We saw something similar in the Ant-Man deck. All for 1. Deal 3 damage to an enemy and exhaust any number of Avenger characters you control. Deal 1 additional damage to that enemy for each character exhausted this way. Perseverance. Hero response, after you change form, you give your hero a tough status card. And Athletic Conditioning. Hero action, discard 1 stun or confuse status card from your hero. And there's 3 copies of that. All right, so we've got Wasp and Ant-Man. Got to see what's inside of each of those decks. I'm really excited to maybe try out. Maybe I might play through the Red Skull campaign with Ant-Man and Wasp and see how I fare. Check out, we've been starting up a brand new show on the YouTube channel here, Just Another Board Game Show, or JABS. And every week we're going to try to put out a new Marvel Champions video. So maybe one week we'll have to try out the new Ant-Man and Wasp expansion packs here. So, yeah, that's what I've been getting lately. I guess I'm Ryan from Bridge City Boardgamers. You can catch us on iTunes and Google Podcasts. We're hosted through Podbean. And yeah, I guess I will see you next time I decide to make another video. All right, take care now.